This is the place. I can feel the power of these relics deep in me bones. Of course, we're not the only ones.
You are too late, outsiders. The temple belongs to my master now. Soon, Zul will awaken Dazar. Then the Troll Empire will rise again.
We'll see about that, you vile creature.
Was a powerful Loa. Perhaps you will make a worthy sacrifice for Zul.
Master, I want your bones! You die with me!
Something has spooked one of the Brutusos, sending it into a panic. Oh, this chaos is the last thing the city needs. Help the merchants by rescuing the cargo before you get stomped on.
Of battle.
Whether it's with battles or people, I always get my way.
We live in such dark times. I hope to be the bringer of light.
I am ready to bring light to our darkest hour.
I am the greatest warrior this world has ever.
We
Peggy 16. Peggy 16. Peggy 16. Peggy 16. Peggy 16. Peggy 16.
Quickest and best possible way. Poison as an apology? You are quite interesting. Just exactly who was the one to think up this wonderful thing? I thank you for allying with us. Now then, how about we reminisce about the past? I guess you could say that I am forcing it. Lord Cao Cao, I swear to you that your path of conquest will be realized on the other side of these current flames.
Peggy 16.
Occasionally, one must add an instrument to the sound in order to bring out the complexity of the song. Master Chengpu, will you head with me to Nanjun? We will capture the 4 counties there before Liu Bei. Cao Cao has headed west, you say? He couldn't have recovered enough to face off against us again, yet. This is our chance. Lord, you must not lend it to them. However, Xiangyang is on the forefront of the battle against Cao Cao. They're trying to capture Jing province before we can return. That is why they are pushing so hard.
Peggy 16.
Zhuge Liang, will you not even allow me to be humble regarding this issue?
Shushu, I want to hear it from you.
Mother, I know I am rushing you, but you need to hurry.
Peggy 18. Peggy 18.
敵なんだこいつは。
待ってくれ。
Peggy 12.
Hi KT family, Jake here from Quay Tecmo. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you the guided tour around the Sanctuary. This is where our heroes rest up and prepare for their next battle in Warriors All-Stars. So let's have a quick run around of the whole place, take a look at the Sacred Springs, which is the source of power for this world, and then we can take a closer look at all the facilities the Sanctuary holds and what we can do there. Right, now that we've had a quick run around of the whole place, let's take a closer look. First up, the inn. So, this is the inn. This is a great place to meet other heroes and take a nice relaxing hot bath. Let's see who's in here today. Ah, we have someone playing on the arcade. I wonder what he's playing. KT family, if you know the track, comment down below and let us know.
Peggy 16. Peggy 16. Peggy 16. Peggy 16. Peggy 16.
頭を冷やせ。
Peggy 16. 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 Peggy 16.
Koei Tecmo and Omega Force's 21-year-old Dynasty Warriors series has never been known to step outside its comfort zone. But Dynasty Warriors 9 is not your typical Dynasty Warriors game. For the first time, the developers have retired the tried and true segmented mission structure in favor of a large but empty-feeling open-world map. But if this is the vision of what a modern Dynasty Warriors game is, then I'd prefer a flashback to the series' more focused and co-op friendly past instead.
Hi, I'm Callie Plaguey reading this review of Dynasty Warriors 9 for freelancer James Swinbanks. Dynasty Warriors 9 represents the biggest shift away from the series' established formula since moving from a one-on-one fighting game to its more established Muso form. While the feeling of cutting down entire formations of soldiers with a button press will feel more than familiar to fans of the series, the introduction of a massive open world changes the pacing in a way that allows the action to breathe. And although it suffers from a number of disappointing technical hitches along with some typical open world jank, Dynasty Warriors 9's sprawling campaign feels right at home in its new setting. Given that its story mode is presented unconventionally, it can take a little while to figure out precisely what's going on. The entire story of the Three Kingdoms of China is told through the eyes of over 80 separate playable characters across 4 major clans, Wei, Wu, Shu, and Jin, as well as a handful of other smaller bit players. Playing through each chapter unlocks the next one along with more characters. Seeing each battle from multiple perspectives is enthralling from a historical point of view, but it can mean playing through a lot of the same missions multiple times, which can be a little frustrating given there is little difference in the feel of any given character out on the battlefield. The open world is the big game changer here, and in so many ways it works to the game's advantage. Missions are picked up from NPCs out in the world and among the different cities that dot the landscape instead of out of a menu. Although the menu option is still there if you want to merely move from mission to mission, traveling from one area to the other gives you a chance to find peaceful moments between each battle. Your actions in the open world are also tied closely to each main quest. Completing subquests will lower the recommended character level of the main quest, so if you find a mission too difficult, you can polish off a few subquests and lower its difficulty. If you make your way off-road when moving towards the front lines, the chances are good that you'll find a dangerous group of bandits to take down, or a pack of wild deer or tigers to hunt. Although many of the optional open-world activities, like hunting or fishing, aren't especially inspiring in themselves, they net you loot you can trade for valuable goods or use as ingredients to buff your attack and defense. The world is massive and in its own way quite pretty. Its sparsity reflects the period, and the vast and varied environments flow seamlessly into one another. The day, night, and full weather cycles aren't just visual changes but also affect the action. Soldiers won't march at nighttime, and bad weather will slow them down. But overall, it also just looks plain grimy at times. Many of the game's textures appear as though they've been lathered in a thick coat of Vaseline. Cities and palaces suffer from this the most, as their elaborate architecture often fails to load with high-res textures at first, leaving them looking like big brown lumps in the world instead of beautiful ancient Chinese palaces. Aside from randomly appearing geometry, the graphical shortcomings are perhaps most noticeable in the character costumes. While character models and costume designs themselves are absolutely stunning, the textures within them lack the sort of clarity needed to work up close. This, combined with rough animations and some truly abysmal English voiceover work, make sure you switch to the Chinese voiceover immediately, make the story cutscenes a little tough to look at given the frequency with which they're shown.
The volunteer forces are to assist the Imperial Army. Do not try and be a hero.
Given the game's technical issues, it's a good thing that cutting down thousands of men in a single sitting feels as satisfying as ever. Entire squadrons can be laid to waste in mere moments. It's truly an epic power fantasy that, even after 50 hours of gameplay, continues to thrill. While the bow as well as horseback combat can be underwhelming, the melee combat remains the biggest draw and the series' strongest pillar. It does lack a certain subtle nuance in some of the later one-on-one boss battles, but 9 times out of 10, you'll come out of battle with a smile on your face.
For me!
It's clear that Koei Tecmo and Omega Force have gone back to the drawing board with Dynasty Warriors 9, and in many ways it's a big improvement on the series' mainstays. The new open-world format changes up the game in a way that helps the flow and pacing of story mode as well as its core mechanics. Sure, there are obvious graphical flaws and some more subtle issues with combat lacking finer controls, but the streamlining of countless menus of previous games into an open world and the laughably fun moment-to-moment play makes Dynasty Warriors 9 not just a must for fans, but worth a look for the merely curious.
That was...
we started talking about us both feeling like outsiders.
Oh, yeah.
What is...
Moving away from its RPG roots, the original Dissidia Final Fantasy traded turn-based battles for real-time action duels. Featuring an all-star cast from the franchise, it told an original story that celebrated the series' diverse incarnations, while also presenting an odd yet satisfying approach to character action. But in aiming for a more competitive focus, along with some half-hearted offerings for solo content, the newest installment, Dissidia Final Fantasy NT from Square Enix and Team Ninja, loses sight of what makes the Final Fantasy series so memorable, resulting in a hollow journey through a franchise's storied history.
Squall, wait! What is it?
Is it another summon?
When the warring gods Materia and Spiritus call forth the heroes and villains to engage in a new fight for the fate of their collective universes, the warriors soon realize that there is a greater threat lurking in the background, forcing rivals to set aside their differences to take on the encroaching menace. Much like its predecessors, Dissidia NT is very much a celebration of the Final Fantasy mythos, set across different locales from the series' past, including Final Fantasy I's Cornelia and VII's Midgar. Several of the stages recreate the same style and tone found from their respective titles, along with the return of iconic musical themes and other references to past titles, including the appearance of the tutorial Mughal who continues to overstay his welcome.
Use your skills,
The brawler pays great attention to creating a mashup of the most iconic elements from 30 years worth of noteworthy games. Dissidia NT's story campaign makes attempts to justify the backdrop of its chaotic slugfest, while offering some room for fan service. Taking control of several heroes from the Final Fantasy series, they'll fight against their own rivals and corrupted copies of other characters as they come to grips with the reality of their present battle.
My home. No. I see. Then I'll destroy it. How does that make you feel?
While the many cutscenes throughout are charming, the story as a whole feels undercooked, even disregarding some of the newcomers to the roster. This is made worse by some rather odd choices in how you go about experiencing the narrative. Story progression uses a node-based system, with cutscenes and key battles costing Memoria to unlock. You'll often have to grind experience in the game's other modes to earn more tokens for the campaign. This ultimately makes the campaign a fragmented experience you can't go through at your own pace, weakening the impact of the story's more meaningful encounters, often building up dramatic fights that you've already experienced several times over.
Do you remember me? You were lucky enough to defeat me once.
Garland, how did I know you would be here?
To switch things up during the story, your party will engage in boss battles against several of the game's summoned monsters, but while the scale of these fights are impressive and the game's visual luster shines throughout, these battles also present massive difficulty spikes in the campaign. Given that they're capable of wiping out your party in single moves with ease, these large battles feel more like clumsy exercises in trial and error, rather than a culmination of your skill. With a roster of well over 20 characters, including familiar faces such as the brooding loner types Cloud Strife and Squall Leonhardt, along with newcomers Ramza and Noctis from Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy XV respectively, there's an impressive set of brawlers to choose from, each with their own unique playstyles.
Finish that foe, Kupo!
Dissidia's action will force you into split-second decisions to make sure your hits count. By building up attack power with non-lethal brave attacks, draining your opponent's power in the process, you'll be able to deal greater amounts of raw damage to your opponents with lethal HP attacks. Moreover, collecting energy from randomly placed crystals will allow your team to call in your chosen summon monster, turning the flow of battle in your favor. Battles are set in large arenas, so you'll constantly be on the move utilizing defensive maneuvers along with support spells and buffs to stay one step ahead of your rivals. Combat is mostly kept at a relentless pace, and when you're in the thick of it, the fighting system allows players to exhibit some rather clever strategies, rewarding those who can read their foe's next move. While this system may come off as a bit overwhelming for newcomers, the generous tutorial mode will put you through your paces to learn all the necessary mechanics to survive.
Use your skills, Kupo!
The 3-on-3 format makes for more hectic battles, and while these are fun to take part in for most of the time, they often result in overly busy encounters with all fighters bunching up, made slightly worse by an overstuffed user interface. The camera also struggles to keep up with the action, which is especially frustrating on the higher difficulties or during online play. As you clear through battles and increase your player rank and character level, you'll acquire gil for use in the item shop. While you can buy cosmetics and collectibles in-game, you can also find treasure packages yielding a set of randomized rewards. Though rest assured, you can acquire every item on your own, as there are no real money microtransactions in the game whatsoever. Dissidia NT's online experience is a big focus for the game, including ranked matches, along with custom games tuned to your own preferences. You'll be up against skilled players who are looking to boost their rep online. Unfortunately, simply waiting to take part in online battles can be a chore. During the first week of the game's release, online matchmaking took upwards to 3 to 5 minutes to get a game going. Moreover, several of the matches were burdened with sudden lag spikes and skipping, resulting in some rather uneven encounters. What's most disappointing is that in going in headstrong into its competitive multiplayer angle, Dissidia NT doesn't offer much outside of it. If the online multiplayer and repeat excursions into the Gauntlet mode don't interest you in the long term, then you may find yourself with few reasons to proceed with the game's already repetitive offerings. For all its attempts to honor Square Enix's long-running series, Dissidia Final Fantasy NT stumbles far too often when trying to replicate the heart of the series it's paying tribute to. While it manages to offer fun and responsive combat, along with an infectious charm throughout, it struggles to advance much from the previous Dissidia titles, with a story that's fed piecemeal behind arbitrary gating, several combat encounters that feel out of place, and unreliable online systems that don't function when you need them to. This online brawler isn't able to live up to the series it steadfastly tries to celebrate.
At least make it interesting.